What do you feel like the global service you give the state credit card? Public use only.
Play one of those gigs.
Cool. Hey, have anything to say to the folks back home? Diana does.
Yes, I don't know.
Would you like to say anything?
Oh, no. He always says that.
I finally get another chance at it.
Come on, here we go again.
I really want to, I just want Ada and Janet to know that We love him so much, and we just really are praying for him because this is going to be a real challenge for the relationship to move away and be married. So we just really encourage them to be understanding with each other and hang in there through all the bad times.
Well, how about you?
David's trip.
No, you.
No.
You were going downhill there for a while. Your windbags.
Women. One thing I want to thank Ader for is telling us about our transmission. We got it fixed, Ader, and a new motor too. No, I wrote in your card that I was really happy that you guys invited us to the wedding, and it was really beautiful. Is there any film in there? Okay. Steve keeps laughing at me, that's why I can't concentrate here. But same with just what Tina said, stick in through the hard times because that's when you'll really learn and grow through those trials. And I know you guys really love each other a lot. Just try not to have pride get in the way. Just really put each other first, and the Lord above that. Bye. David? No way. Look at his sunglasses as if it's really.
Doesn't he look like he's from Mafia?
Yeah. It looks like there's so much sun here you can't.
Hey, they've got a video thing, a contest for this guy that made Clockwork Orange and stuff. Making a Marine movie, and if you do a video of yourself and send it off to him, you might be in his movie. You want to?
They're doing pretty good. We just talked to them.
Are they?
Yeah. Overall, they're doing pretty good.
How's
my next step is
I might be the one that sends you out there.
Make sure it's round.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, make sure it's
one way.
one way.
You know this guy? Yeah, I'm gonna get this. Nobody ever saw him. Yeah, I hope so. I hope he knows more than you and I know.
I'm sorry about that.
glad to see you show up. You signed it down at the morning. They were all attention. Yeah, you signed it down there. Your brother was up there. And yeah. That's how Mark Spencer. Probably likes it cooler.
Toys R Us. Sorry. Only once in a while. Every other one.
Thank you very much. That's Billy Mintz on the drums, Billy Mintz on the drums, Frank Lamarco on the saxophone, flute and clarinet on Mr. James, on the bass and piano. Thank you very much. We're going to take a short intermission. We'll be back in a few minutes. Thank you.
a replay?
Yeah.
We want you to put it on all of our masks next week. You guys, sit this way with one shot. Lift your glasses. Hold your glasses up. You're a toast. Wait.
Keep on your face, Ader. Wait a minute, right here. There you go. You got it. Ader, you got right here.
You guys are supposed to drink like this. That's right.
I have to show you everything. Quiet!
Excuse me, I'd like to wish Ader and Janet the best in their futures and live happily and prosperous.
I'll drink it. Hold it.
Wait a minute. Yeah. Okay. I'd like to toast Ader and Janet in a way that you really must understand that if they have a long life that Nancy and I have had, and very happily, you've got to understand a lot of little dumb things that come up in your life that can be solved if both parties are reasonable. Are you guys reasonable? Long life and happiness.
I'll drink it.
Next!
You look so happy when you're married. Hey, all right, now we're going to start over.
Wait, Janet. I'll be careful. All the
Janet, why Ader? One more toast! Wait a minute! Hey. One more toast! And this might be out of context, but I'm going to give it anyway. Are you ready for this? I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Jim Phelan, who delivered Janet.
I've improved a lot since I first saw it.
Get their picture. Not again.
These I left it on while I was out. Hurry up, Allison! Wait, Dr. Bailey, don't go anywhere. Get over
I was the doctor. Got it? I know where he is. He's out talking here.
Oh, look at that.
We'd like to know.
Well, Ader, ask me some of the basic needs that you feel are going to be met in this relationship. What is a need that you have, not a
Janet
want?
will really support me through whatever we're going to go through. We've prayed together, and we know we're going to go through some rough stuff very soon, like moving away from home, moving to a completely different part of the country. We're going to both be pretty much jobless, and I feel she can really help me out with that, and just support me, and knowing I'm not going to have any work right away, and the money situation will be tight, and she'll really, I think she'll really support me, and know that I'm going to have to go through that, and be behind me, and support me.
Do you feel that you need somebody that helps you communicate, or helps, maybe you can use them as a sounding board? Would she help you in that aspect?
Yeah, exactly. Whenever, when I know something big is going to come up, or I'm going through something rough, I know I'm going to be able to turn to her and tell her what's happening with me, or happening inside of me. I know she'll be able to, respond in the right way. Just really talk to me about it.
What's the way that really that you see in her now that she responds that really encourages you? What method does she usually use that really encourages you?
She can tell when something's bugging her. She'll kind of go, what's wrong? I'm usually kind of hard. She kind of has to draw me out and kind of, pick at me.
You mean you're hard on yourself?
Yeah, I usually keep things inside.
Both of us do.
Pardon?
Both of us keep things inside. That's what we're going to
What's the best way that she uses? What method does she use that best draws you out?
I keep bugging him about it.
In a nice way. She kind of talks and what's wrong, and she just asks. She's persistent, and that's the best thing. She knows there's something wrong, and I want her to be able to ask me when something's wrong. It's myself that's holding back from telling her, and I think just her asking me will open it up.
How would a way that she does encourages you as far as that persistence? Now that you're going to be married, you're going to find that it might turn to, or sound like, it might be the same thing. Nagging.
We've been through it.
We've talked about that many times.
Yeah.
We're having some questions, and we're answering some questions.
All right, wait. You gotta have a photo.
No.
All right, let's see, where were we? Needs.
We're talking to me about my needs.
Yeah. And see, I've lost the whole train of thought there.
My needs about her, about when she
how she turns to nagging, the persistence that that you enjoy that needs to be brought out in you. But what could she do to the gray area between nagging and persistence? What's an area that as you've experienced different times that you say, hey, I like that approach, and that really wouldn't be considered by me as nagging?
I remember, because usually the things that I feel she's nagging about are little things, but when she's not, it's something, I don't know, maybe something spiritual or something. It used to be, pretty much we've kind of gotten over that, but it's something like, we talk about God together, I just kind of say whatever I thought and be quiet for a while. And we start talking about it, she, whatever, ask me what's going on, and talk about this or that. She would draw me out, and I would just be quiet. I would just totally just quiet about it.
Sometimes, though, I've asked him, I don't want to sound like I'm nagging, because I hate that word nagging. And I don't want to be a nagger, but I'm sure it will happen once in a while.
You see, you can say that, but then the way you continue on, I don't want to sound like I'm nagging, and then you go on, but she is nagging. You see, that's why what it might not seem to you seems to him.
Well, that's something.
And that's why I'm asking him what things encourage him, lift him up as it isn't as nagging. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, but maybe he might have remembered an incident that really uplifted him and said, I like that approach, how she kept after me that way, or maybe...
I remember something. When I talked about we're moving to Wisconsin, and I said I wanted to we want to find a church as soon as we get back there. And when you said that you wanted to get involved with me in Sunday school, that really made me feel good.
But that has nothing to do with what you're saying about the nagging.
No, but...
Yeah.
I don't know.
Now, how about you with him? Now,
He's
since we're gonna...
never.
But
He's
now you were...
much more easygoing than I am. If anybody in the relationship would be the nagger, it'd be me.
Yeah, but you were saying that you don't communicate very well, or you're kind of quiet. You both need to be drawn out.
do.
And he says your persistence. Now, what draws you out that he does?
Nothing, because I'm so open that I always state my opinion. I'm very frank. Nothing has to draw me out. I think.
Oh, then you didn't say at the beginning. You did say that we both are very
both of us
quiet.
we are very quiet. When I get upset about something, I clam up, and I know that's wrong. But when I have an opinion, boy, I state that opinion. I don't hold it in. So you don't really have. He's never really had to draw my opinion out of me that I can really think of.
That's okay, we got some spray.
Sometimes I have a tendency to hold back what I'm thinking, but not for the most part, because I'm pretty open and pretty frank.
Okay, then what he was saying then that he liked out of this relationship, and you especially, as you're drawing him out. Okay, now what do you expect, or what do you like about this relationship that he does that seems to satisfy you, or just, hey, I really like this? You know, he saw a weak area and knew that it had to be changed.
He fulfills so many parts that I need. I feel that I'm a complete person, but he just compliments. I think we complement each other in the right way. Sometimes I feel like I'm too loud. He's more quiet, and I think that'll do me a lot of good, because sometimes I have a tendency to open my mouth in the wrong times, and he's kind of the opposite. And I hope some of his will rub off on me, and vice versa. I think our differences. I don't think the differences are really important. I think we complement each other more than anything.
Okay, but again, then you were saying that you have a tendency to speak too much now.
I do.
And then as you monitor or see him in his maybe easygoing state that he is, it seems to make you sit back into a neutral position rather than an aggressive.
Yeah, it does. Sometimes it does, because when I see him being very quiet, it has a tendency that I clam up. It quiets me up. Unless it's something that's really bugging me, then I will open up. But otherwise, I clam up, unfortunately. That's something we're going to have to work on, I think. From everything we've talked about, communication's got to be the most important thing, and I know that if we don't have that, we don't have anything.
Okay, well, I'll fade away here. Thank you very much for your time. Bye. That was good, thank you. You want another question? You like another?
An easy one.
And not a complicated question.
Huh?
Not a real complicated question.
Not a complicated question? How about,
Can you hear us on that? With the music in the
hopefully, yes. It's a very sensitive mic, but I don't know how it's going to pick up, but we'll try. Another question, huh? How do you feel you'll be able, what do you think is the best approach as you have an argument?
Thank you, Jess. Yeah?
Thank you. As you have an argument, you know, nowadays, in this state, you'd have an argument, you'd discuss it, but you know it wouldn't be settled. Well, it's time for her to go home, and it's time for me to go home.
Now we're together.
And then you can cool off, think about it, maybe not see each other for 2 days, maybe a week, or maybe be able to call the next day, which phones lend to problem solving better than physical appearance or physical being there. How do you feel you're going to overcome the communication, resolve a problem being together?
It all depends on the complexity of the question. It does.
Yeah.
If it's a very simple thing, then we've got to settle it. Obviously, we can't run away from each other and hide in different rooms and say, well, I'll talk about it tomorrow. I think both of us know that we have to, because I know lots of times I've said, we're going to settle this now.
And what does he say?
He says, okay. I
most compromiser? Him?
Like I said, his easygoing personality.
What would happen? What do you feel would happen when he starts not compromising as much?
You know what? It wouldn't bother me so much because sometimes I feel sometimes I wish he was a little bit more. I feel like I'm very. I feel like I'm a very aggressive person in some ways. Not.
Yes, I know what you're saying.
And he's very easygoing, and sometimes I wish he would just stand up for himself and more.
But you see, it's those times that you want him to do that, but then all of a sudden he's an independent person, and then if he stood up on that time that he says, yeah, I'd like to see him stand up, but not on this point.
I don't know. I have to wait and see what happens, but...
You see, that's what happens. That's the dichotomy of the whole thing, is yes, I'd like to see a husband who takes charge of the family and everything else, but, and that three-letter word, but not at this time and not at that time.
I think that marriage class that we took at Calvary, even though we really haven't gone over the material as well as we should have, I think it helped a little bit because I have got to control my aggressiveness. He's got to be the head of the household.
That's the way God wants it. We're gonna go for that. We both know God's gonna be first. And we both know that whatever bad, rough areas we have in each one of us, He's gonna work on. And I know she's gonna have, she's gonna be whatever badness she's gonna have, and I know I'm gonna be badness the way I am. But God, I know He wants us together. He wants us to be loving each other and work out for each other, and He'll, smooth us out.
I realize that God can solve many, many problems, but I mean, it's not totally up to God to solve the problems between us. We have to work on it too.
Well, you'll find that God's going to bring a lot of circumstances together to where you're going to say, why me? And then what you're going to have to say is, why not me? And then it's the character building program that God has you in all the different characteristics of forgiveness, etc. I'll fade away. Bye.
Well, that's what the answer was.
Being single, you don't experience the real burden of having to deal with somebody and all the interaction of day-to-day living. Like you've got mom and dad, but you kind of touch base with them from time to time, and you've developed, you grew up with them, so you're molded. You know what I mean? They imprinted you with your family lifestyles. Every morning at 8 o'clock, mom always wants everybody there, so we're always there. And da-da-da-da, all these habits have gone up from year one. But now, you've shifted gears, and now you're this mold, she's this mold. So now what have you got? They don't jive.
Head-on collision.
You see, they don't fit. So then you have to say, well, wait a minute. And a good basic one is, we leave the toaster out on the counter. No. In our house, we put it down underneath the cabinet. Well, listen, I usually have toast in the morning, so that's why it's always good to have it up on the counter, so I don't have to pull it. Well, no, it doesn't look good. It doesn't look. That's a nickel-dime problem. But it's a common problem. It was pertinent for me at that time, but I could bring up this experience, and I can say something like that to a married couple, Dave and Tina, any of them, and they all go, and they know exactly what it was, because it was probably with either toothpaste or the combs or how you have the dresser table. Gee, I like to have my coins out on the thing. Oh no, the wife wants to talk. Toasters is just one general thing, and it's a generic problem amongst, married couples. Things that you don't, oh my goodness, I didn't realize it was going to be really this bad or hard. These nitpicky things. What's the big deal? Why don't you just do it my way?
Well, how do you solve those problems?
Did you hear what I said? Yeah. Why don't you do it my way? What's the big deal? Let's just do it my way. Well, what's the big deal? Let's do it my way. You see, you've never had that close proximity of dealing with day-to-day habits.
Lots of things.
Yeah, little things. That's those little things over and over. But you can usually conquer a lot of the little things. But then there's a blip. Okay, well, we'll just pass over that one today. So then it winds up you're saying to yourself, I'll tolerate that today. And so then at the down the years and everything else, these different little bumps, you know, that haven't been really resolved of, oh, well, you know, I'll give them up. They're still there, you see. So then you come back around and some circumstance comes up, whoop, here's that problem again. What are we going to do about that? And then you go around and around and around that same problem again, and it never gets resolved. So then it comes into either a compromise and you both agree on it, okay, that's the way it's going to be, and then you develop it into your habit, day-to-day living, and you just say, well, that's the way he is. Or you hang on to it tight. He's stupid or she's stupid to even think that. You see, then that's hostility towards that other person, and it starts growing. And I mean, this is big, but it just starts growing a little bit, and that's why over the years you find, you know, couples kind of drawing apart, in that they'll not want to resolve some conflicts, you know, because I just don't want to talk about it again. I'm tired of talking about it, you know, I'm tired of this, you know, and that drift. Or, you know, it's not, you know, to the point of right here is divorce, you know, but it's a small little drift, you know, and that unity, that, you know, that innocence of coming together. At first, you know, in marriage, you don't realize all his faults. He doesn't realize, or he might see him, or you might see him, and you think, oh, well, that's no big deal. And then all of a sudden, hey, it is a big deal. Because now I can't do this that I thought I could do, because that little problem kind of persists in that, you know. And those things you don't realize until you're married, you know. There's so many little facets in the marriage relationship and personalities that you don't see until after you're married, and then all of a sudden you start seeing other women or other men and start saying, I know that trait and I couldn't live with that, and I know because you've experienced it, you see. And that's the only thing that really helps you, you know. God brings those circumstances to, it was a rough edge on you, you know. It was tolerable while you were single, but I'm not going to tolerate that, God's going to say, so he's going to bring that person along and just start wearing away.
How does he do that? How does he
We
wear
have to
away?
make a decision. What are we going to do? Well, let's do it this way. No, no, no. And arguments, blow-ups. And then you start understanding, you know, I'm a very dominant person, or I'm a very placid person. And I know I shouldn't be that way. I should stand my ground. And then do the opposite maybe. You know, you're saying that you're the most, you know, the aggressive, and he's the most placid, say. You start realizing your weak points, and then you say, you know, I think I'm going to have to make a stand. Or honey, you know, and communication skills you're going to learn. You're going to say things that you really didn't want to say. And maybe you can use those things that he really opened his heart up to you, and then you want to really viciously attack him, and you'll use that tender communication that you had to whip him with it. You know, or vice versa.
I don't understand what you mean.
Where he opened up, you know, hey, I'm very, to think of an example, just pulling something out of the air might be, yes, I do agree that is a weak area in my life, you know, in my personality, and I know, and I'm going to really try and let God work this out, you know, work this out in it, okay? So now it's a decision that you want your way. Now I'm not saying, you know, just because I'm looking at you, but now this is a decision that I want. Now this is a good time for you to let it go my way, because you say that you have a weak area in that time, and I think you ought to do it now. This is God brought this problem along just for this. See, so do it my way so you can learn how to be less, you know, more passive. No. And, you know, that tender moment, so then he's going to say, well, I'm not going to say those things anymore because she'll use them against me. You see. But it isn't just one time that does it. You know, that fit of anger or frustration, you know, because you get frustrated, you're busy doing this, and gee, you want that, and so then, you know, the circumstances come up like that, so then you've hurt him or her, vice versa. It works both ways. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? And, you know, it's that situation, and then all of a sudden it takes time, and then all of a sudden you say, you know, why aren't we communicating? And then that's the time that you have to communicate. You say, well, and again, you got to keep laying that old heart, that tender heart out on the thing, and it's going to get chopped. They're going to be very inconsiderate. That other person is going to be inconsiderate as you think. You know, because, gee, here I am, I'm going to lay my heart out here. And now you're thinking this. And so you go ahead and spew your guts and lay that heart out there. And so then it can either go like that, and then you can either react and get very mad about it, and chopping means, oh, you're stupid to even think that. Would he or she ever say something like that? Well, of course. We're all human. We don't realize that what you're thinking there of laying your heart out and the sensitivity of that other person, or insensitivity of that other person, because they're in a whole nother other dimension of saying, this is really something that I want to give, you know. So if I make you seem like you're stupid, you know, to even say something like that, you know, then of course that will make me get what I want, but he or she doesn't realize that you really laid your heart out there and really wanted to communicate, you know, that intimate situation. So then you can withdraw, or you can, you know, be drawn out. And that's where counseling comes in. Counseling doesn't mean you're wacko, you know. If you find a good Christian counselor, good biblical, wisdom is what it amounts to. Principles of Scripture, and can work with both of you at the same time, so you can learn communication skills. Because that's what it is. Did you see what you just did to him? You know, you heard him. Were you laying there thinking, oh yeah, and everything else, and you see that, oh, I didn't realize that. You would have never known it if you didn't have a neutral party there that could care less if you won, or care less if you won. You know what I mean? Neutral, because I don't take sides. There's a problem. I can see a problem because I'm disassociated from the emotional tie that's there of, you know, fighting. But now, you're not always going to be fighting. You know, we're just talking about problems that are going to be coming along. There's going to be those good times, you know, definitely. You know, but then the hard times, decision making, and days and days are packed with decision making. With that different mold. Remember, you don't fit, so then you start becoming one. You see, through the years, and it takes time, and it's that abrasive action, you know, that sanding off, and God will pick one. He'll bring a circumstance along, and there's character qualities. And when you guys leave tonight, I'll give you character qualities, and
What do you mean by character qualities?
That'd make it real,
Okay, good question.
each other.
Did you want any more chips? I think he likes candles.
I'll find him in a minute. Don't go to sleep on me.
No.
You were here a minute ago. You heard that one?
What?
Yeah, we've heard that one before.
Maybe they're over here now.
Yeah, it is neat. Dude, that frame's great.
Is that mirror that you have hanging on your wall, is that old? That mirror, is that old?
Yeah. I had them somewhere. Here's some old, not so good copies.
I know too many. Are you part counselor?
Huh?
Part
Are you
counselor?
part
That's my
counselor?
gift. I think, yeah, that's
The
a
gift
gift
of
God.
counsel.
God's really given me. You know, because of the bumps and grinds, you know, it's an area that I see why. It gives me endurance, you know, to go through the things I go through. Because the things that I learn, you know, it's a real bummer. I mean, you know, get up and scream, we'll be reading one of them.
Patience. Patience versus restlessness. Accepting a difficult situation from God without giving him a deadline to remove it.
What does that sound like to you?
Well, I don't know. Are all difficult situations from God? I don't really understand what it means.
I think it means to, when we're going through something rough, just saying, oh.
Why me? Remember I told you now, why not me? Now what's the positive qualities, character qualities that can come out of this?
Of
It's
why
just like,
not me? Patience.
of having a difficult time and then saying, well, I guess I'm gonna have to just let it go. You know, I've got to train myself to let go of things and not be so possessive of an idea, maybe, or maybe something that, you know, I've got to wait on somebody giving me some money they owe me, you know, something like that.
But this part where it says a difficult situation from God, I don't understand what that means. Does he give us all our difficult situations?
Nothing happens to you unless it's gone through God.
But we have a freedom of choice, so if we pick a difficult situation, whether he wanted us to or not, that's our choice.
But he can deliver you from a choice too.
Yeah.
You see, nothing
But he
happens
lets us
to you.
make our choices.
Because I'll teach that person. See, a little prideful actor. Have at it. And you've got to learn that. So he's going to let you go there, and you're going to fall down and scrape your chin. And you're going to go, oh no, and then turn to God and, oh God, why me? You see, now he's got your attention. You see, it's just like kids. When you get kids, you'll start understanding even more how God operates. I really started understanding even more, you know, when I got my daughter.
Well, you know, that's a good question, but sometimes I have a hard time reading. I have a hard time reading what decisions he wants me to make. You know, sometimes
What do you mean reading decisions?
Which way I should go.
Oh, finding the signal lights and
Yeah,
stuff?
I have a real hard time, and sometimes I think, well, am I getting a signal and I can't decipher it? That's a big problem for me.
All right, some of these qualities here. Okay, here's another one. Here's negative qualities that can be turned into positive qualities. Look at those. Okay, look at on the what is it? The right-hand side there are the aspects of.
Oh, I think I've seen this before.
I brought it at a study one time.
Yeah, I remember. It wasn't set up this way, but it had all the same.
Yeah. Did you type these out?
No, this is from a seminar that I went to a week or two after I was saved, and that's truism. Here's all the character qualities. But,
Yeah, I've seen this.
But you see those character things there now. Now these are things that we all have in different stages of development.
Mhm.
You know, like being crafty, daydreaming, devious, mischievous. You have a lot of creativity. I mean, that's the negative aspect of it. But as you start growing with God, you start understanding, gee, I can be creative for God now. Gee, well, instead of saying, let's go out and witness this guy, let's have the guy over for dinner and everything else and just kind of just show him some principles of Scripture, not even bring up God just once in a while, you know, rather than, hey, I never thought of that. You know, I mean, just a simple idea like that, you know, that's something that's very, very good. But then the guy that he was so crafty, he was a daydreamer, a devious type guy, you know. See, these are areas and attitudes that we've got that we don't really realize more and more, especially now they're going to be coming out more in a marriage situation, you know, because you've got to deal with it. Hey, he's hurting or you're hurting. Hey, I want to talk about it. I don't feel good. I'm frustrated. Oh, God, I can't dump her off now, you know what I mean, like I did last time, you know what I mean, and let it cool off, you know, because that was a cool-off period, you know, which is good. Sometimes you can discuss a problem with each other and get really frustrated and just say, and this is self-control. This is another thing that we have here, another character quality of self-control, of just saying, okay, Let's let it drop. And I'll tell you what, it usually takes me a day to cool off. So when we cool off, let's bring this up again. See, now the circumstance isn't there which brought it up, and the emotion, was just going, and you put booster rockets on it, and away you went. But in a neutral time, you can look at it, from a whole different perspective of, you can act on the problem rather than react on the problem. And it takes a lot of self-control, and that's what single people don't have.
Self-control.
A lot of it, because why? If something bothered them, you just don't go over there anymore, right? That's easy. But now you're forced, into a situation. You see, and this is an areas that, here I am single again. I wasn't a Christian before. And I'm single again, and I start seeing these things even more. And now I know why God's allowed me to be at this stage. Now it's very unscriptural to be divorced, but I did everything in my power not to. I had bumps and grinds. I wasn't just Mr. Angel and the whole thing either. I blew up, and then I wrestled with God, and I had to go back to my wife and say, honey, no matter what, she's horsing around. You can stay here, don't leave, and everything else. And no, she says, I've got to go. She knew she was using me and everything, but I sincerely, with a clear heart and a clear, very tone, the whole body language and everything, no, honey, please, please stay here. I was wrong. God's really wrestling. I was wrestling with God. I blew up. It's a hard thing for me to do, but God commands me that I'm not supposed to send you away. You know what I mean? So I was able to witness with her.
Is she a Christian?
No. But, what was our topic that we were talking about? Being single now.
Yeah.
As I can experience that in a Christian thing as far as self-control and being diligent in different areas and things like that. It's a, God drags me over every nook and cranny for me to experience that. So I have more and more tolerance of other people. I'm very compassionate for other people. I can feel where they're at. That's my gift. He hasn't given me the opportunity to go to school to it, for it, but I have good principles. I grasp the principles of Scripture. Other people look for the Greek in it and everything else, and I look for the principles of Scripture, why he said certain things. It's a natural. Plus the seminar is dynamite. In Basic Youth Conflicts, have you heard that? Bill Gothard?
No, I
Yeah,
haven't.
Dave went and he showed me the book he got.
Yeah, it's dynamite. It's dynamite. Totally, you think,
It's all this stuff.
this guy's off the wall, this guy's off the wall. But Scripture is right against the grain of what we do, It's the opposite. That's why it's foolishness to those who are perished, Now what's foolishness? If bullets were flying and everything else in a war situation and you see a guy stand up in the middle of it, looking around, you say, that guy's a fool. Right? Why? Why did you say that guy's a fool?
Because he's going to get hit with a bullet.
And
You
he
know,
stood up. What made that idiot stand up? That guy's whole way of thinking is foolish. Because he's doing just the opposite of what you should do. Now, should do, we're talking about shoulds of what the world should do or what the Christian should do. Right? Things of the world are foolishness to those, or things of Christ is foolishness to those who are perishing. So then, what's the opposite? If somebody slaps you in the face, what's the most natural thing to do? Go back like, but then, here's the question. What's the most unnatural thing to do?
turn the other cheek.
Turn the other cheek. Another one would be, what's bothering you?
Forgive them.
Forgiving and have that very peaceful attitude of, what's bothering you? Or how come, or what's the deal? Having total control of self-control, different things like that. So actually when things come up like that, you say, oh, it's natural for me to feel this way. Then the question is to ask, what's just totally the most absurd thing to think in this situation? Dwell on that. And I'd have to say that 90% of the time you'll be right. And you'll say, oh, that's stupid. That's totally irrational. You know what I mean? That's God's law. I bet you I could find Scripture for it.
To do the thing that we think would be
Just the
unnatural?
opposite, yeah. Just the opposite in in lots of situations. I mean, you know what I mean? In a natural, our our flesh, you see, our fleshes reaching out or whatever it might be, or, you know, fear in certain circumstances, maybe, oh, I should love that person, you know, and reach out to them, you know, just that opposite of what I should do. And there's times where you could play that game and not necessarily act on it, but, you know, start your thinking that way, and then back it up with different scriptural principles. As you read and you start seeing those things, and you start seeing more and more, and, but walking through the problem, you know what I mean, is really the good teacher. Hard knocks. You know, blew it, you know, boy, how come, and I have every right in the world to think this and that and everything, and then maybe over a year or something, you look back and those little bumps that you went over and everything, you start mellowing out, you know, and you start having more and more, you know, you don't realize it because it's so gradual. That's why problems come along. And you know I think you both basically know your strong points, and you both know your weak points. And that's what's really neat, is if you could both get together, you know, write these things down, and then pick them in easy, you know, start with the easiest one, each one of just a bad point. You know, I would like to work on this. Could you help me? And these are the ways that you can help me work on this, you know, overcoming this weak area in my character. And then you vice versa. And that way, see, so then you start working on it, you know, and then I don't like the way you did that. You know, that really upset me. I felt like I was being used, you know, whatever the case might. Well, then what would be another way you'd like me to do it? You know, and then you say, well, gee, you're so mechanical. You know, if I tell you how to do it, it'd be mechanical. No, you're building a new habit. It's just like your mom or dad telling you, this is the way it's done in our house and everything. You developed a habit, and it was natural then, wasn't it? I mean, you didn't even think twice about it because you knew that was the way things went in this family. Well, this is the way things are now in this non-fit family. You know, you have to start developing new ways. And being an adult, you should, you know, you'll work out as you can, you know, as your emotional makeup works. Do I talk
Sounds
English?
good.
Do I
Yeah.
talk English?
Yeah.
Savvy, huh?
That's a big problem I think that I'm having. Is if he does something that doesn't fit with me, I have a hard time approaching it. I don't know how to ask him without hurting his feelings.
Do you hurt his feelings? Or do you think you hurt his feelings?
I think I hurt his feelings.
Does he say you hurt? Do you ever say that?
I don't think I ever said you hurt my feelings.
Have you ever thought that?
Yeah, a couple times. Well, I have a few things. Not something I remember since we got married, but
Yeah, but I mean through your
yeah,
whole relationship.
yeah.
You've thought it, but you never verbalized it.
I have a couple times. That's something.
How did that go?
I don't remember what it was.
You want me to tell you what it was?
Do you remember what it was?
Oh yeah.
What is
Of
it?
course, the person that gets hurt always remembers what hurt him.
Stuff, and I told you, bug me.
No, that I've seen him?
Yeah.
Oh, that I was still seeing my old boyfriend when I was with him. Hader said that it hurt his feelings.
Now, how did you react? You see,
I think I tried to be logical and tell him that there was nothing between us, that he had nothing to worry about, that a friend was a friend and that's all it was going to be. But I can see how he felt. I mean, this
did you
guy
at that time,
Pardon?
when you were talking to him, you see, what the most important thing is if another person can tell you, I hurt this thing bothered, you know, I mean, I'm really hurt. If you can try and take off your shoes and hop in on his shoes, you know, and just let yourself hurt you, you know what I mean, like you're hurting him, then what does that bring out? Compassion. Oh, I did hurt you, come to find out. Or you don't quite understand how it hurt him, or her, vice versa. So then well, tell me how it did, you know, so you got to go into detail of how did it hurt, or how are you feeling? And then, oh, now I understand it, so now you can run around and hop in his shoes a little bit more and hurt.
But
And
I
then
think
that brings out more.
I understood how he felt because I could put myself in his shoes.
Yeah, but literally.
But I didn't. Oh.
You know, we have a tendency to, oh yeah, I understand how you, and then, you know, what I mean, we feel it just for a second, and then put it aside, and then we have to explain ourselves. oh, just, you know, it's really just a relationship. You're seeing that feeling, that broken heart that you hurt in, is kind of put off to the side a little bit. You know, we sense it at first, and then through our explaining it, you know, just don't feel that bad because this is the way it is, and
I didn't know
everything
what
else.
to
And that
do.
feeling's off. Yeah.
I didn't know what to do with it
Mhm.
because I didn't feel that I had to give up a friendship that was nothing more than a friendship.
To you. He was the one that was hurt. See, now this is a very good example of that.
Of my selfishness, you mean?
No, of communication. You see?
We did talk about it though.
Yeah, we talked a lot about it.
Yeah, we really did.
And it's, you know, we resolved it.
I did stop seeing him,
But
didn't I? More. I didn't talk to him as much.
You know, now I don't feel he's a threat to us.
Oh,
Well, I hope not.
No, I remember the way I felt, and you know, I've seen myself, you know, go through it and change to where now I more think about him, you know, the way he's feeling, and you know.
although I did get pretty mopey the other night, I feel sorry for him because he was a big part of my life.
Mhm.
We were engaged, and I went with him for 8 years, and it was hard for Ada. I know it was hard.
Mhm. Yep. You feel that there's anything unnatural about that? Do you think?
No, but I feel like I should let go, and I've had a hard time.
Oh,
Letting
of him
go.
and that relationship,
Yeah.
kind of, yeah. Time will help that. Plus relocation, somewhat will help with that. You know.
I want him to be able to, you know, because he's a good friend of mine now, and I want him to be happy and meet somebody else. I told him many times how I felt about Ada and that I wanted him to meet somebody, and he couldn't, you know what, the thing that kind of blew him away is when I told him I was a Christian. I told him that I could never get back together with him if he wasn't a Christian. I think that's what kind of,
Cut it, huh? Yeah, yeah. You'll get. I think as you not necessarily dwell on it, but maybe it'll come up from time to time. But you know, it's
thoughts
time.
of him?
Yeah, thoughts and stuff. It's
natural.
part of your life. I mean, it's like Aunt Tilly or anybody else.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, you can't just cut her off. You know what I mean? And she was a part of your life. You had good times, bad times with her, or
Yeah.
whatever it is. You know, so it'll come up. Time to time, but again, it'll fade.
Oh, I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, I know, but it's a normal thing, you know. Just don't let the guilt thing kind of
You're not worried about it, are you?
wrestle.
No, it's the same. It's the same with me and Paul. It's the same kind of thing.
That's a sore subject, we won't get into it.
We're never gonna get into
Is this
it.
one of those bumps, huh?
This is a bump,
Nerve?
definitely. This is the kind of bump where I want to say, let's not talk about it.
See, these little things, you know, those are those little
We
bumps
better resolve it now.
and the little things.
Well, you know what we were talking
sometimes,
about?
hey, did you know what? You can have a very good discussion about a problem and walk away with it having it unresolved. And there's nothing wrong
This
with
hasn't
that.
been resolved.
Yeah, but there's nothing wrong with that.
Really?
But when it comes up, you should try to work at a communication to where you could just talk about it.
Instead of arguing and getting.
Forget it. Right? I just don't want to talk about it. You know, I really feel like talking about it. You know, all right, if you want to talk about it, I'm not in the mood right now, but I think I could be in the mood in an hour, or maybe, can we discuss it tomorrow, maybe at lunch? Okay, tomorrow's Saturday, and there's some things I've got to do, but let's talk about it tomorrow at lunch. And I know I have a weak area in my thing, now I'll let it ride, so you bring it up.
What?
You see? Do you see the difference in
I
that
do,
there?
yeah.
So now, you'd have to maybe bite the bullet so you can have some constructive conversation rather than destructive. You see, and the self-control that's there, and you know what I mean, and the sensitivity to the other person's weak areas in their life, and maybe the frustrations that they're going through maybe at that time, and understand. You see, it's in being single, you don't have to do that.
Though. We can talk, but I think we say the wrong thing.
Yes. See, it's a communication is a skill.
We already,
Isn't
we
it a
already
skill?
realized this the other night. We were talking about. Remember, we say I just feel like I say the wrong thing. I don't think I'm saying the wrong thing, but just by her
It
reaction.
comes in the way he says it.
Yeah.
I don't think I say it badly, but just knowing by her reaction, I can see I said something wrong. I mean, I didn't feel it was intended to be wrong, but.
How do you learn to say the right things? And the way
Okay,
to say
then,
them?
when you said you saw it, you knew you said the wrong thing. I saw it in her eyes and everything else. Okay, this is a neutral time, isn't it? Now, whatever you said there and you saw the flame in her eyes or whatever it was is the wrong thing. I was just saying, hey, remember a week or two ago, remember when we were discussing that thing? And what I'd like to talk about is I know I hurt you and really triggered something in you, and I don't want that to happen again. This is a neutral time. Rather than watching this, is you talk.
What do you mean neutral time?
Neutral time doesn't mean right in the heat of the thing, you know.
It's like right after I
okay.
say something, you're upset.
2 days later is a neutral time that the thing was dead and done and over with. You know, you didn't go to the movie, you blew the whole thing, we didn't go.
But I thought you weren't supposed to go to bed. That's part of it was in the marriage class. You don't go to bed if you're upset with each other.
Yes.
So how do you solve that?
Okay, but you've developed a communication. You've developed a communication that says, honey, can we talk about it tomorrow? And it's mutually agreed.
Oh.
Listen, I am too emotionally disturbed about this thing and I can't talk about it now. Well, listen, I gotta know now and everything. Honey, we're gonna fight. But you see, what's going on here? There's one person in control and there's another person who's out of control. Or maybe is going downhill emotionally, you know, just really frustrated and I want this resolved. I have
go to Wisconsin
a need.
We could use you.
Yes, do you see? This is
Yeah.
counseling. I'm not doing anything more than a counselor would.
I think it's great. We have a hard time saying the right things.
But you'll learn, if you communicate, if you would learn in those neutral times to say, was that fire in here? What did I do? Well, when you do this and that really bothers me. Oh, you're stupid. See, insensitive? You know what I mean? That's stupid. Why do you ever think of that? I mean, that's idiotic. You know what I mean? But it isn't. To that person, it's very important. And you're saying, why, everybody knows that. My family did it this way, you know, and you don't fit, you don't jive, you know. And that's where you have to die to your family and you've become one now. And this is where the becoming one is you have to be moldable. And one person gives, the other person gives, and this is a very humbling, it's a humbling experience. Or a very bitter experience. And bitterness is pride, you know, I want it my way. Don't you understand? You know, and if you have a problem with that, and he has a problem with the lack of, you see, and it could, you might see him starting to flare up, you know, because he can be mellow, but then there's going to say, you know what, I'm giving up. Now, see if this is what you say. Think. I'll give in this area. I'll give in this area. I'll give in this area. But you know what? I'm building up a ticket. And a ticket is like a wild card. You know what a wild card is? Now, this is something I don't want to give on. Right there, I lay my wild card down and I say, no, I want it my way. And you say, no, I want it my way. Listen, all those times I've given in to you, I want it my way now. Heck no, I'm not going to have it my, no, I want it mine. Then he goes on up. Listen, are you doing that, Ader? Are you doing that? When you want something your way, you lay it on and you look back on all those times that you gave in and saying, listen, I deserve this one time. Do you do that? I'm asking you that.
No, I don't think I do, really. With the way I feel, the way I handle things, I can see something's going to be a problem, and I kind of look at alternatives to what's going to be ahead. Is it going to go this way or that way? And I try and just go ahead and deal with it before it gets to be where it becomes a real big thing. Kind of.
See, that was one area in mine. See, I was a giver, and I'd back off, and then I'd say, okay, this is one thing that I want my way, and And my wife had her way all the time. And now, what are you coming out of the woodwork for? You know what I mean? No, I want my way still, you know what I mean? And I got to the point, it took a couple of years till it came out, till it surfaced. You know, I don't think I would have really realized that unless the marriage relationship. You know, because then all of a sudden, golly, I gave in to her 100 times and I want one and I don't even get that one, you know. Of course I've got those other smaller ones, you know, but that one that in my mind or in my heart was the real one that I really wanted, at least let me have one decision, you know, I couldn't have it. And I get very frustrated and very upset, you know, and it got more and more upsetting. You know, for one, I wasn't a Christian. Second, there was drugs and booze and the whole thing, you know, not habitually, but, you know, it led to the thing, you know, hey, I'm frustrated. You know, I had needs and I had somebody that just wouldn't meet those needs or listen. And that's what's so very important. Again, it's just saying, nah, what are you feeling that way for? Thing is understanding that's the way she or he feels. Those are very real things to him or her. You know, you understand you're not being that compassionate. I think I am, but that's to your family and the way you are. But he's different, so then you have to start on reprogramming. You know, that's where that flexibility and tolerance, all these little things in here. See, here's the whole gamut. And all these attitudes here. And then, don't bruise them.
No.
Those
Can we
are
have
very yes, they're very precious things because you can look at them and when you get very frustrated.
You want to take this one back?
Yeah. You know, if you get very frustrated, then you just go, why? You know, you were mentioning of what God might be building in me, or you know, am I really taking His cues? Isn't that what you were mentioning to me?
How about how to read what He wants me to do?
Yeah, taking His cues. In other words.
Yeah. Well, how do we? I still don't know how to do that.
Okay. One day-to-day living is presented with all sorts of decision making. Either, let's see, if I go to this line in the market, let's see, the checker, she looks like she's brand new and everything else, and there's not enough. There's two people there with big shopping carts full of things, and oh, here's one, and you experience, and they got a bagger on that lady too, so that'll go quicker and everything else, and you're getting that, you know. So it's a decision making, you know, and then you're saying, what's it worth, you know, what's these things that I want, what's my goal? My goal is I want to get out of here, and as quick as I can. I don't want to stand in line. So as you do get into your problems from day-to-day living, you have to say, well, why is it a problem? What's it here for? You know, I think it's very selfish of God to bring this along because I'm a Christian and I think things should just go smoothly. You know what I mean? I read once a day for 30 minutes and give him a couple prayers or two a day and things like that. Why can't I have it? You know, there's one way of looking at it. There's another. Now, what is he trying to teach me?
Mm.
Wait a minute. What is he trying to teach me? But I don't think it's fair, you see. Our reaction to how our parents were disciplining us is how we're going to act at how God's going to try and, you know, guide us into, you know, the character building program. And if we were really bitter towards our Father and stiff-necked, then we're going to somewhat be that way and bitter and ungrateful to God, you know, for not really realizing the things that He's given us and to share the things with other people, or to, if it burns down, well, it had to go through God first, you know. So, gee, let's see, what's something that my house burnt down? Let's see,
Anger.
Well, availability versus self-centeredness is making my own schedule and priorities secondary to the wishes of those I'm serving. And that's one thing in decision making that you're going to find is a real big one. Self-control versus self-indulgence. Instant obedience to the initial promptings of God's Spirit. Discernment, seeing through a surface problem to root causes. That's a good one. Because what you're seeing a person yelling and screaming about is a surface problem. There's a root problem. You know, that person is hurt. You know, they feel challenged maybe for his authority. And that's why he's screaming and hollering. You know, he's competing with you for control of the family, not necessarily dictator type control, but he's, you know, you want to go your way, and that's not the right way. I feel God leading me this way. You know, and you're wrong. I know you're wrong, and it's a real hard thing to bite the bullet. A woman, I think, has a very, as I look at it, I see men in the hard role and I see women in the hard role. Women want to dominate. You know, they're in charge of the kids, and God made them that way. You know, just pick, you know, to take care of the kids. I mean, I'm not being, you know, ERA type thing, but they're meticulous, and God made them that way for child rearing and helping in that aspect of being a helpmate. But it's very hard for them to cut that control at the children and leave that, you know, submissive attitude. That doesn't mean that you can't discuss things with your husband and say, I really feel that this is a wrong decision. It's how you appeal, you know, learning how to appeal to authority, you know, rather than making it sound like a challenge of authority. You know, it's just like a business partnership. You know, if you're not supposed to be in control, but you're somewhat of a silent partner, you know, you could appeal, you know, to that person. And that's a hard thing for a woman to do in today's society, especially. You know, and the hard thing for a man to do is, a man doesn't like me. Avoids it. Just, oh my goodness, you know, and I see more and more men here that if you want it done, all these ideas that you get, take the reins and go. The steering wheel and go to the family. And they're giving up the role of the, you know, the wheel in the family. It's a sad state, but it's a natural. And here we come into that natural situation, you know, cause and effect. You know, they let loose. And it's a hard thing for both sides.
Newlyweds going to see a counselor or to go on those encounter weekends or whatever.
That's the best time to do it.
Counseling?
Yes,
Resolve
ma'am.
early.
But we don't really know the problems yet.
That's all right.
We can't identify the problems yet.
They're there. Why do you think every married couple we see, you know, oh boy, rough times ahead, no.
That's all we've heard.
Really?
Why?
Because everybody's different and they come together.
Why? If I tell you you're going to walk outside there and it's going to be cool, everybody says, yeah, it gets cool at night. Yeah, it gets cool at night. It must get cool at night. I mean, everybody has problems is what they're saying, and it's a matter of how you deal with the problems. And the thing that hurts me the most is people will not go to counseling in the beginning and develop. It's a matter of developing communication skills, sensitivity, compassion, humility.
You know what I told Jan the other night is that just out of the blue, I just sitting there thinking, I told her I really want to be intimate with her. Just, you know, that word kind of seems, you know, to say a lot of what I wanted. You know, to be intimate with her is just to know her as I would know myself, so that I could, like you said, be compassionate, understanding, and everything else. And that's what I want to, you know, work for.
It's a nice word.
And to do that, the only way to see different sides of her or him is in the you know, is while you're having good times and also when you're having the bad times, because that forces you. It forces you to do something about it. You know what I mean? Because we can just put along and drive along, everything's all right. But you know, you get the spring in the seat and you gotta, oh man, you gotta move. You know what I mean? It's the same thing. And that being single, you didn't have to mess with it. You know.
This has been, I have to be honest, this has been a hard 2 weeks for me. It's probably been I think it's been pretty easy for you. But for me, that's because I'm older, and I must have been much more stuck in my ways than I thought. Because I thought I was pretty flexible and it would be real easy for me to get married, but it was harder than I thought. And it's only been 2 weeks. Not that I don't want to try.
Yeah, I know. What's the hard thing of it?
The hardest thing?
You keep wanting to go Now, you keep wanting to go back to just go wherever you want to go, when you want to go type thing, or what is it?
Yeah, you told me that.
Part of it
Part
is,
of it is,
part of it, but I don't know what the, it's hard to say. I haven't been able to tell him what the hardest thing is. It's, I guess it's, I
Scared?
feel low, yeah,
You feel low?
loaded with responsibilities and expectations. I've just heard so many negative things about marriage lately, I think.
Okay, you're gonna get that. But, here's the negative things, is those problems that you're gonna have. Are you know what I mean? You're looking at two aspects of the thing, why me and why not? And if you look at it like that, and you keep going, why not? And going back to that chart, and look at all those character qualities that, definitely that one I can learn it, but I don't want to. I don't want to. I want it my way. I'm used to this way. Yeah, I don't want to give up. I don't want to give up these different things of truthfulness versus deception, earning future trust by accurately reporting past facts. White lies. I know if I tell him the truth, it's going to be a 20-minute to 30-minute discussion. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But why not? You know, then we get to learn communication skills and things like that. I know I've got to tell him the truth. I'm going to have to tell him that I told a lie. It's coming to this, you know what I mean? It's one of these lies maybe that it's going to come out, you know what I mean? So I'd better present it now, you know, of my own free will rather than have circumstances reveal a lie. Why me, God? Why me? You know what I mean? Here I am frustrated, you know. Why not? But I don't want to do that. It's going to hurt my image and your image too, God, because I'm a Christian and I represent you. It's going to hurt your image. Now, are you really worried about hurting his image, or are you worried about hurting your image? See?
Yeah.
You know, and these are just one example. You know, these are one of many things. So then you say, all you hear about is negative things. It's because you're going to have problems. You had problems when you were single. You know what I mean? But
different problems.
They're different, but you still had problems. You know what I'm saying? And you're gonna have problems now. But you have good times too. But it's those good times that you just can't have all the time, and the things that's gonna frustrate you and what you're gonna look on and why everybody's telling you about the bad times. Because that's what you can focus on, is the bad times. And you're going to say, oh no, I'm not going to say this again because I know the problem we're going to have. I'm not going to say it. You got a problem now. You've developed a pattern. Communication, I want to develop communication. No, you just cut it off.
It's not bad to say something like that then.
You see, it's all a training process, and all of a sudden you start realizing your faults. If you're a selfish person, I really don't want to be selfish, but I know I am. But you're going to find that you will start being the person that you really want to be, and you become more and more free if you approach the problem in the right perspective.
So you're saying not to hold anything in?
Well, I mean, that's very idealistic, but you're going to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's idealistic, but eventually you'll get there. You know what I mean? You know, you're going to hold your habits and everything, but you're going to let loose of them, you know, through the years, you're going to let loose of them more and more and more. As you keep, why not me? Looking at those character qualities. What do you want, God? Sure, God. Open up willingness and that humble spirit, you know, being moldable, you know, rather than being hard and, oh, I like what I like and that's the way it's going to be. You know, and it's a real hard, that's a hard thing to let go.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what you might be having a problem there. Different areas, you know what I mean? Letting go of 101 different types of areas, you know, mom and dad, this guy, problems, money, this, job, you know what I mean? There's so many aspects of life, just in life, that we don't want to let go of, and, you know, I mean, it just gets to be overwhelming at times, you know. But then, okay, God, whatever you want, fine. You know, and over and over, I start seeing that. When you get to that point, you say, okay, God, that's it. In your heart, if you take the house, take it all if you want, fine. You know, you emotionally cut yourself from your idol, the house or whatever it might be. Good. God says, now we can go somewhere. all of a sudden it takes care of itself, the house or whatever it might be, the thing that you were worrying about, and then off and upward, and you start looking bad, and you just start, God gives you that little backward glance as you start coasting up, I was so emotionally tied to that thing, whatever it was, the car or anything like that, and it was dragging me down. I was so emotionally and physically involved with that thing that I couldn't go anywhere. And look at how God, and your thoughts and your joy goes to God and everything, and He lets you stay on that cloud for a while, but then it's time to get to work again, and so then you go back into another area of your life. But you've got a little victory there. You've developed when we experience things, that's very concrete to us.
Mm-hmm.
I can sit here and tell you about all these victories and all these heartaches, and then how God, took a man out of, the slum and brought him up to, big $1 million things, because he put his trust in God and everything else. And that's great. But nothing sinks in deeper than personal experience. And development is just like runners, they put those ankle weights and stuff on their feet, to run. Why? It's a burden. But why? They're building a muscle. They're building muscles. That's exactly how it does. So you can look at problems in one way and you can look at them in another way. It's a hard thing to do. You won't happen overnight.
Mm-hmm.
Just remember that, because then you can get depressed. Well, gee, he said that victories, and shoot, I've been trying to look for the good spot, but I can't because it's horrible. You know what I mean? You're going to get like that. Fine, you're going to get like that. Don't worry about it, just don't look at the immediate, because today is the day of microwaves, pills, fast cars, airplanes. We can get there like now, everything real quick. But this is something that takes a real slow process, but it's more and more how you give, let loose and let God.
Mm-hmm.
Many years, and you think, oh boy, I got it now, and you just really hit a plateau, and you get a little cocky, a little lazy, kick back, and all of a sudden problems again. How come? I didn't do a thing, you know what I mean? Here we go again, and it's like that. But God is very merciful, and He gives you enough time, you know what I mean? And He'll pop up a little flag in your mind saying, this is a problem, but He won't do anything. But from time to time, problem, this is a problem what I'm doing, you know what I mean? You're aware of it, and you get those little indicators from time to time, and all of a sudden, zoom, you'll go into a thing, this might be over a year or something. But God's very gentle because He warned you about it very gently, and then He worked, okay, now it's time to work on it. And you go into your problem, and then you won't understand it when you're going through the problem. Maybe you do. This is even better. When you welcome problems as joy, what's that verse? Joyous at the tribulations that are before, welcome, Peter. Welcome tribulation. Don't reject it. And as you welcome, okay, what is God teaching me through this thing? And it's an attitude that you go through. Oh, I can learn this, I can learn that, but it isn't necessarily the way you want to do it. But if your thirst is for righteousness and for what God's ways are, you can go into a problem. You still have a problem. You'll lose some money. You'll do this and everything else. But you come out and come up on the other side of the bank. You might be a little bit wet, but hey, I can see what I've learned there. Now, people go to school and pay thousands of dollars to get an education. So why not lose a couple $100 or a few $1,000 to get an education? But gee, that's only in one thing. I can't use it and make more money. But what is money? Is money all that important?
Obviously not to us. We're giving up everything we have.
But that isn't it. It's that character building program to be more like Christ. Put your trust in Him. Where your treasure is where your heart is. Oh, Brent, what this? I want that. That's where your treasure is. Seek you first the kingdom of heaven. Heavenly things, and it's neat. It's really neat. And counseling is good. Even as newlyweds, especially because you're still moldable. You know what I mean? You haven't built up those walls, of scoring away on them and just say, okay, I don't touch that. Then you start this. It's a gradual thing. It isn't immediate, but you start not communicating about certain things. And counselor will kind of help you, and then they begin to know you.
Mm-hmm.
And then as they know you, which takes many sessions, then he can develop you. No, remember you had that problem this time? Oh, yeah. Then it's even more forceful and more And especially if he could put goals and projects for you guys to do, you know, and then you become more and more a Christian counselor, a good Christian counselor. Because you've got to have that biblical perspective, or it's just, you know, it's just another encounter session type thing and stuff like that. Some encounter groups aren't bad, you know, just plain old lovey-dovey and, you know, communication.
Oh, the weekend type thing?
Yeah, maybe. I haven't gone to any of those or anything, but there's some of them that just get you to open up. You know, I mean, that's a skill in itself. It doesn't have to be necessarily, you know, God told you to open up, you know, that type of a thing, but it's a skill. And again, it's up to you then to put the biblical principles into that skill and understanding that.
Just learning how to talk is going to be really important.
And remember, you know, you're thinking all the time, so you're saying things to yourself about him or her, you know, and they should understand this and everything else. And why can't you understand that? All of a sudden you verbalize certain things and say, you know, I mean, don't you know me by now? You know, but you've thought all those thoughts. You've never verbalized those thoughts. They aren't mind readers. And this is something that I see everybody saying is, don't you know him? Oh, I never knew that. You know, like it was all a big surprise. And these people are 15 years in the marriage, you know. Oh, I thought this. And a lot of it's misunderstanding. You know, which brings a different person, you know, but you would have never known it unless you had somebody dragging them out. Wait a minute, let that person finish talking, you know, and then they talk it out. And that's another skill to learn too. It takes a lot of self-control. One of them is to let the other person finish his whole sentence, paragraph or his novel. And once you can count to 5, then you say something. Then you say it. That other person should give you the respect of finishing your whole thought out. And then let him count to 5. And then he can answer it back. And if there's any questions on what he has to say while he's talking to you like that, you have a piece of paper and you write down little cue words, you know, because you can't write the whole sentence, but little cue words about that. And then you can come back and talk, but then you've heard his whole spiel, and you all of a sudden understand that they were building blocks for this whole thing, and they didn't really mean what they meant halfway through, you know, out of context.
It's hard for us to think of each little thing together, making up the whole thing. And you're trying to pull it all together at once.
Oh, that, you know what, that, if you can develop that, if you could develop that, be strong.
With the art of listening.
The art of listening and let him finish it.
Do you remember what I was gardening before our wedding? Remember I was gardening out in front? And sitting on the lawn, do you remember what I asked you? I said, if there's anything we do, promise me that we're going to listen to each other. Because my parents do not listen. They interrupt each other constantly.
You're right.
It's so important. Do you remember me saying
I
that?
remember.
I was sitting on the lawn. I said, let's
You were
promise each other
weeding.
that we will listen. I was weeding because my parents interrupt each other, and I don't want to be like that.
But it cuts off that whole thought and the harmony of the thing. And then it's your turn to see, but you can really only talk about one thing, because when you stop, you count to 5, it's his game, you see, to come back. You see, so then you say, that's worth it. There's an important thing. Now, I want to talk about that one in that sentence that he talked about. But you'll find that you'll catch the whole thrust of his conversation, and then, you know, you'll be able, it's a controlled conversation rather than out of control. You're not reacting, because you've given enough time for, you feel yourself wanting to, you know, when he says this, you know what I mean? It'll pulse, but it'll go back down again, and then you start listening, and then then you'll understand that all that huffy-puffy that I was experiencing really isn't that important as this. This is the important one. You know, and then you can't explain it.
You mean
It's worth its weight in gold. It is. I'd like to see you guys do that, if you can do that. Because, I mean, remember, here's the first thing you're going to do. When they start in the sentence, you're going to, You're gonna feel it and wanna interrupt. Like that, and then you're gonna say, wait a minute, I have to finish mine. You see, the other person has to help. But they have to have the right attitude, the facial expressions, the body language, and the whole thing. Wait a minute, you have to wait. Did you count to 5? You can count to 5.
I've done that between my parents. Like when I was like the referee, I go, okay, your turn. And I have him sit there, hold my dad, and just like watch his mouth, you know, so he can't do anything. And then I ask my mom, are you done? You know, I make sure she's done. And then I go there and watch her, then let my dad.
I think that's one of the worst problems people have, are interrupting when they're trying to, or just any everyday talking. People are always interrupting.
But you see, as you listen to the other person trip with them,
What does that mean?
it means you really get in their mind and go along with them, what they're talking about.
Feel the way they're trying.
So then you're
Oh, so
actually
you're
living in
listening.
their shoes, you see. And then, you know, by doing that, because you know they aren't gonna, you know, you gotta count to 5, so you'll know when it's your turn to talk. So you don't have to worry about talking to them about this or that and the other. But you will have your pad there of cue words. Little
This
cue
is-
words.
Yeah, but a pad could really irritate the other person.
You'll get used, not as much as cutting you off. By far, not as much. You know, I got my wife to the point, you know, where I was doing that. Like I said, listen, I want to respect you, and I want you to finish all that you have to say, and then I want to come back. But for me to remember what you did, so I don't have to cut you off, do you mind if I use the pad or something like that? And she wanted to make her say, she said, I don't care, you know, and everything else. So I got my pad and everything, you know. So then I started doing that, and that was during our big, you know, through the roughy time right in the divorce section where I was learning that. Boy, dynamite, worth its weight in gold.
Really? If the two can just sit there and do it.
I can do it.
You
I
know,
think we
see,
could
then
do
I
it.
used that,
Well.
you see, we had to go to counseling, you know, in the divorce court. They tell you, you know, if we don't resolve our custody, which we were having a problem with, you know, then they assign you a counselor to where they try to help you and guide you along a little bit so you don't fight in the courtroom, you know what I mean? And you have a trained psychologist there. And this gal, you know, my wife kept cutting me off and everything else. I said, okay, listen, I'll give you this, I'll let you talk all the way through and everything else, but when it's my turn to talk, don't cut me off. All right, just I'll give you the paper, you know, the whole thing. But please don't get, and then she cut me off, you know, and everything, so I waited until she got done with her spiel again. I said, okay, now you cut me off and you didn't wait until I got done, so could you please wait until I get done with what I have to say, and then please don't cut me off. I stopped and she cut me off again and everything. And I kept trying to do this, you know, and it just
Didn't work.
well, it worked to some degree. This counselor got blown out of her chair. She said, I have never, ever seen this before.
Did you think it was a
This
good
is-
idea?
She says, you guys are sophisticated. You know, and she says, I get the crude ones in here that just cuss up a storm and scream and holler, or the quiet ones and everything. She said, I have never seen anything like this. There's power to it. There's power to it. And it's a very, very dynamic, good power. You know.
But she kept cutting you off.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. But you see, oh gosh, these character qualities in there, the things, that self-control that I can learn by that, you know, and in the end, you finally wind up having discussed what you wanted to discuss, even though they kept cutting you off, but you still gave them. You see, it knocks the wind out of their sails. They don't have anything to fight about. You see? You know, like that. And okay, you know, and then you sit there like that, and then you don't react anymore. You act on the situation, and you discuss it as a common problem in a business or anything else like that. Takes you years. You know what I mean? It takes you many times of blowing up. You know, but remember, I mean, these are good skills to learn right off the bat. If you can remember and work on those skills right now where you don't have those hostilities, the longer people go and they, you know, then it's harder and harder for them to retrain themselves to get back down, you see. And as you start sensing yourselves getting into trouble, I think you'll start realizing some of the trouble. And don't dismiss some of the communication stuff as normal. It's normal. Everybody, well, look at them. They've got big problems. Don't compare them, yourselves with them. If you want the best for your life and your relationship, don't compare with other people. Compare with Scripture and saying, hey, I understand that I have to be, free, and I feel really stifled. I feel frustrated. Now, not necessarily all the time, but at times, I think this is too much. Or, let's get with it. How come we can't solve some of these problems? Let's go to counseling. And remember, it's not for the criminally insane and it's not for the wackos. It's a skill. You go to anybody else to learn how to sew, how to dig a ditch, whatever it is. You go to them. Why not go to him to learn how to communicate or solve problems? And they're cheap. Some of them, there's some good Christian, they should have lay counselors, and they don't have enough of them. Where they're just people in the church that have a skill like what I've got, and I don't charge anything for it. I mean, this is, to me, it's better than sex. Truthfully, I love it. I just thrive on it. You know what I mean? And I love it. And there's other people that have that skill, but for some reason haven't quite developed it. And you can see them in the congregation, and it'd be great if the pastor could grab those people, send them off to little classes and stuff, and they'd be tickled pink to do that. And then as he finds maybe a person in his congregation that's having a little trouble, just your standard trouble communicating and stuff like that, show him to so-and-so in the congregation.
Take a lot of burden off the pastor too.
Sure, definitely. But there's other people that need professional help, but a counselor will say, I think you need more help than this. Maybe you need a specialist and stuff. And then it's time to face the facts. Hey, I guess I have a problem if he says that. And do you want the best for yourself, or do you want God's best or your best? Because whose reputation are you worried about now? Again, my reputation or God's reputation and stuff. And it's a hard thing. It's a rough road. You know what I mean? Because you have to. I know I got problems. I gotta get fixed. You come to a crossroad. You got to make a decision. And marriage brings it out. I'm sorry to say that. Because it's a close proximity of two people. You had it when you were a child, but you didn't know anything else better. It was mom and dad and you, and you fought it out, and you had those rough times through adolescence, but then you finally cut those pertinent things, you might still be fed with them through the umbilical cord, but you have no responsibility somewhat to them, And now it's a whole nother game.
I'm ready to play.
9:34, you want to go on?
We have a couple of minutes, yeah.
You got a lot of room on your table. Here's one thing. So we all have a tendency to develop some of the characteristics of our parents.
Yeah, we know about that.
Oh boy, I can see myself. I can see my mom and me.
Yeah.
And there's parts that I just hate. Yep.
You know what? Don't say to yourself, I'll never be like her. Have you said that to yourself? I'll never be like that.
Well, I don't know if I've ever said never want to. I don't want to be like her.
Okay.
I'll probably end up being like her then.
You use that as your measuring stick. I'm not going to be like that. See, so everything you do is, nope, I'm not like that. So what? You become very familiar with that measuring stick. So all of a sudden, fits.
Well, maybe I can learn by.
You might not do the same physical things. You see, like my wife, she says she'll never be an alcoholic like her mom. No, she's not an alcoholic. But she's very selfish, inconsiderate. Same as dead ringer as her mother. You're just like your mother. I'm not an alcoholic. See? Surface problem, root problem. She's got the root.
But isn't that's another normal thing, isn't it?
It is.
To be like their parents.
But, what did I say? Don't say that. Don't use that as a comparison. Use the Bible, Christ as the comparison. Don't compare yourselves with yourselves.
You
That's the worst thing you can, with other people also, and your parents.
That's so hard. I
See,
see
we're not
myself,
so bad. Look at them. Man, they're messed up. But as you look at God's word, ooh, am I messed up? I fall very, very short.
see, that's where you have to know the Bible pretty well. I don't know the Bible
Just
very
have to
well.
read it because the Holy Spirit, and you can sit down in 30 minutes and he'll go, boop, and he'll throw a little arrow. And that one point, that's all you have to learn, just that one little point that day. 30 minutes. That's it. You say, oh, but I'm not a scholar of the Bible. I'm not a scholar. I'm not a scholar of the Bible. I know principles of the Bible. And I'd state these principles to some of the very knowledgeable people who know Greek and everything else. They can just way over their head. That isn't what it says. He's talking about the Jews when the Jews are coming through and everything. No, there's a principle there. You don't do this.
Like are you talking about like the Ten Commandments? And
Oh, gee.
those are pretty basic principles.
Pretty basic, but it says like don't fry the kids goat, the kids' meat in its mother's milk. Okay. Now he was just stating about the fact of life. You don't do that. Well, there's things to that. Milk has an effect of keeping things together. You have milk and it inhibits digestion. So if you boil the meat in the milk, it inhibits the digestion of that meat, so then you get indigestion. There's a principle there. You see, there's that principle.
I've never read that part.
But you see, other people would say, well, no, they're just talking about the sacrifices, maybe, or something else. Dealing with that. There's the obvious, and then there's the principle behind it. See, different things like that. Compare yourselves with Scripture. Don't worry about being a scholar. Take that, throw it out the door. Throw it out the door. You just say, God, I don't know much about it. Show me today what you want me to learn today. And you're going to see yourself starting to do this. And you're going to be far above other people who are Christians, who have been going to this church for 25 years. And I read my Bible every day. That person has been 25 years, you're still right back where they were. Whereas you, being open-hearted, now you're going to fight God in areas. But your main thrust is, I want to know, God, what you have for me today. And one little thing, 30 minutes of reading today.
That's good for us to remember.
Different. And
Well, we
there's
want
character
Bible
qualities
study,
there.
yeah.
But it's hard, when you're really fighting, for projects and stuff. Oh, gee, studies tonight or something like that. Also finding a good study. There's studies that just kind of walk you through little basic principles of Scripture, maybe, or something like that. And, gee, I don't really feel good about that one. We'll go try another one. And it's that's a tough road, church hopping. Trying to find the right church.
Well, you're going to have to do that anyway.
As far as churches, there's very few churches because I called the Chamber of Commerce, and there's the Moravian.
You ever heard of Moravian?
It's a Protestant
Is it
church.
Moravian or Moravian?
It's a. It sounds to me like. Oh, I can't really explain it. It's in the encyclopedia.
What is the name?
Well, the Moravians there used to be a Moravia over in Europe, so they're from Europe. It really didn't say anything about their beliefs in the encyclopedia, just mostly about their history and background. But it's Protestant. And there's Lutheran, Baptist, Episcopalian. What else is there?
I don't remember the other one.
That's about the only choices we have.
In those churches, in some of those churches, you might find a Christian, or two or three. And through time, maybe you'll start saying, hey, we know they're Christians and everything else. They really have a hunger for God's Word. I don't really get a lot out of this church. There's nothing in the Bible that says that you can't meet at anybody's house for Sunday and have services and start your own home fellowship, or your home church.
That's what Marty goes to.
Yeah.
That's how our evangelical free church started. It is in a garage. There's nothing wrong with that. If there's false doctrine going around out there. Maybe there's somebody in that body that's just, well, it's the only church there is. Well, hey, why don't you guys come on over for church and have a formal church service in your home? Nothing wrong with that. And you say, well, gee, I'm not a teacher or anything. Have a simple service. You don't have to have a big elaborate type thing, but maybe bone up on a little message of some sort, you know. But that would force you into getting into God's Word too.
I thought about that because somebody told, I forgot who it was, that it's kind of dead in that area,
In Wisconsin?
Yeah, like I'm not Wisconsin, but I'm just saying, there's just parts of the country where things just don't happen. It's a laid back kind of little town. It's been the same for whatever. I just kind of got a thought of us going back there and stirring things up a little bit.
No, it
That wouldn't bother me if we could still get our work done.
What do you think you have to do?
And I'm talking about running the gallery and everything.
Yeah. How much work is entitled in that? What's the hours we're running it?
We don't know. And he's going to have to find another job. Hopefully we'll have time together.
Well, we will.
Let's see, it'll work out. I think a real important thing, I think would really help you out is that seminar if you could get to that.
Yeah.
Because there's some real good principles in there as far as, there's a men's manual that, they've got 2 men's manuals out now. Talk about finances.
David and Tina's house, a big red.
Yeah, well, that's the basic seminar
That's the
one.
basic seminar. Yeah.
Then there's a men's manual. One of them talks about finances.
Doctor's seminar or something.
Hey, where's my other book though? Where are all my books? Every Friday night we usually go over to Ken and Diana's house and we have, just like what we have here.
Oh, you do?
You started that about more than that.
Oh,
4 or 5 months ago.
5 months ago, 6 months
Is
ago.
it neat?
Oh yeah, people got problems, so then all of a sudden it's,
Are you the
well, when you do
counselor?
that and everything, and then we go along and the other people just
Are you
watch
the
and then
referee?
they kind of enter in and say some things too, and you really get to know the people. I mean, because here they are having this problem, and we bring it out and bring it right up to the head, and then this is what you've got to do, and things.
Are you talking about individual couples? How many couples show up?
2. It's not a big one,
Ken
but
and Diana
it's good.
and
And my boarders here.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, when they come over. And but you really get to know the people. I mean, not bad, and because the other people, they'll pitch in their 2 cents worth, and which is good, and then vice versa when it's their turn on the hot seat, if they have some problems or something like that. And when I say the hot seat, it's just because we'll start out at saying here, we start on anything like they've got finances here of establishing the tithe as a weekly reminder is one, and definition related to borrowing, men of God who refuse to borrow, and learn to live within your income.
Is that all in the seminar?
Develop sales resistance. And this is all scriptural stuff. Flee from the hidden traps of swindlers.
Oh, wow.
Here's the one that's really cute. The quack language of swindlers. It goes A, B, C, D, and it's like amazing, breakthrough, clinical, discovery, exciting, fast working, do and improve.
I took a business class where we went through all those words, and it's just a hoax to get you to buy it.
It's a learn how to get the best buy.
Do you have to take the seminar to get those books?
I don't. If you never took the seminar, and it would seem very strange, some of this stuff.
So you really
Choose to serve God rather than money. Identify and reject false financial concepts. So you guys will learn all about this, and here you're going, flaking away, huh? Going away, running away. Know God's 4 purposes for money. You know what his 4 purposes for money is?
No.
To provide basic needs. Only a few things such as food, clothing, and shelter are necessary to maintain life. God demonstrates his loving care by providing the resources for these items. Behold the fowls of the air, for they sow not, neither do they reap, nor gather into barns, yet your heavenly Father feedeth them. Are ye not much better than they? Why take ye thought for raiment? Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They toil not, neither do they spin. Yet I say unto you that even Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. Having food and raiment, let us therewith be content. Okay. God's wisdom in this purpose is to establish daily dependence on Him, to deepen our love for the Lord, to develop a spirit of gratefulness. There's more than this. To teach us to live within our means, and to help us to enjoy our possessions. The second phase of the purpose for money is to confirm direction. Direction. Which way should we go? God will use the supply of money or the lack of it to confirm His direction for many of the decisions we must make in our lives. If we think that we should buy a car but do not have the money for it, we can safely assume that until God does provide the funds, it is not His will for us to buy a new car or get the engine rebuilt. In order
I
to
should
get,
have, you know, that answers my question right there about my car.
you see, you know, we go over this stuff like on Friday night, you know, and we go bong, somebody go like that, and that starts it all off, and then we start gathering and everything. We never get any farther than that, you know, but we go on and things that happen. It's really weird.
Sounds like I shouldn't have bought my new engine until I had the money.
See, this is borrowing. This is borrowing. And this is,
Borrowing.
it's a tough thing to do. And some people say, oh, you know, well, I've got my wages and stuff, but that's assuming that you have your job next week. Oh, but it's good for sure and everything else.
Oh, now
but
we say to
still.
build up credit. That's how you build your credit.
Yeah, well, who wants credit? Anyway, God's wisdom in this purpose, as far as the confirmed direction, is to build our faith and vision, to determine who is the Lord of our life. That's definitely when you don't have any money, you find, Lord. To protect us from harmful items, you know, like a new car that we shouldn't have had or something. To teach us patience. We don't have the money, we have to wait for it. You know, that's a tough way to learn. See? Something to look forward to. To concentrate on true riches. True riches? Don't yawn on me. You're on camera.
Yeah, you're on.
Okay, the third one is to give to Christians. How about that? 4 basic purposes of money is to give to Christians. Our generosity will determine how much spiritual light we have within our being. If we have a greedy eye, our whole being will be filled with spiritual darkness. But if we have a generous eye, our whole being will be filled with spiritual light. God's wisdom in this purpose is to unite Christians, to demonstrate the mark of a Christian, to initiate spontaneous thanksgiving. By giving to somebody, wow, wow. And to multiply the potential for giving. You know, if you give, other people might give. The fourth purpose of money is to illustrate God's power. God is a supernatural God. He wants to demonstrate His reality and power to both Christians and non-Christians. One means by which He has chosen to do this is through the miraculous provision of money. Prove me now herewith, if I will not open you the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing. Malachi. God's wisdom in this purpose is to cause Christians to trust in Him, to mock the false gods of our age, to purify our lives and motives, to bring non-Christians to salvation, also to glorify God. That's just one little...
That's a neat book.
Good seminar. Real good seminar. It's Monday through Thursday from 7 to 10, and then all day Friday and all day Saturday.
Oh, that's neat. When was it?
It was every time just the day before Halloween.
Oh, yeah?
It lets out is when it's done. Then you're, wow, God, and then Halloween. You know what I mean? It was a bad time for me. You know, but that's really good. I'll see if they have it there in Minnesota.
Wisconsin. You
Wisconsin.
might have it in Minneapolis or Green Bay.
Well, you might be back here during the summer or winter months.
Do they have it here every year?
Yeah,
Oh.
October, at the end of October.
We'll still be there in October.
Probably, yeah.
They have it all over. Well, maybe it's in the back. And anyway.
for it in the.
Yellow Pages?
Can you remember the name of it?
No, I've got it. I'll get you. I'll get you a copy.
Why don't you, Steve, keep
Oh,
one
here.
of these?
Huh? Why?
Because we'll just put it together in our notebook.
Our marriage guidance counselor.
Yeah.
You think so?
Mm-hmm.
I like to share.
You like to share?
Yeah,
Here's
you can give it to somebody else.
here's the thing about
I should get some.
appealing to your husband.
Oh. Appealing? Being appealing or appealing?
Being appealing.
And,
You aren't appealing.
oh, you're appealing. Listen to that.
That's pretty nice.
Flattery will get you nowhere.
Ooh, that's terrible.
Oh, the winds of adversity is really good. It tells you about
This looks neat.
this is another one here of problems and why they occur. Is that would be a good one for you?
Yeah.
We're not going to have any adversity. What's this for?
Yeah, those I think would kind of help you. There's
Did you Xerox all these off?
that's my ministry. Anybody that'll take them and at least read them once.
Oh, yeah.
It's well worth it because there's so much.
Do you get guideposts?
Yeah.
What do you think about that? I like that magazine.
It does, but it has a little slant of humanism in it. It has a little slant. It's very low key. It tells about what happens, and then God kind of comes in the end, or just maybe a little bit there and a little bit there. Just it's a good, magazine, but it just doesn't ring to me. You know what I mean?
See, I've gotten a lot out of it.
Yeah, it just there's some things that just don't quite click with me. Now our church they sponsor it. Matter of fact, I think they're the ones that send it to me. People in the congregation, but it's just a little bit low key on God. But some people are that way. That's appealing to them.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like I say in quotes there. It's a good magazine.
What's another good Christian magazine?
I've got good one
I
here
saw
by
one.
Dobson. Dobson's a good one, and
Dobson's the guy that wrote this book.
James Dobson has his magazine.
There was one I found up at the Kaiser when I was waiting for a doctor's appointment, and
Psychology for Living or Living Today or something like that.
it was one word. It was one word. Money. It was called Money. M-O-N-Y.
M-O-N-Y.
Yeah, that was the name of it. It said a Christian book for family living or something.
Yeah, see,
Christian
this
Living.
is just the latest one to focus on the family. And, I've got an old one you guys probably have to see if you like it.
Oh, I've heard this on the radio. He's got a program.
Oh yeah.
I've heard him. He's pretty good.
He's
He
excellent.
deals
If
with
you
all
have
kinds
him,
of family problems.
yeah, if you have him on the air, here's one that you can have.
Is this the,
Yeah, I think it's in this one here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
oh,
You guys
okay.
can keep that one.
Oh, thanks.
And then see how you like that one. He's good in psychology. Well, see, I'm that oriented, but it talks about day-to-day problems and stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
no psychology living for today. I think is on.
Well, Steve, we better go. Thanks for all your
Yeah.
teachings.